everyone. Welcome. So happy to have you here for the 12th episode of Misplaced, this series from Livin Farms. We're really glad to be already at our 12th episode. And for those of you that never tuned in before, just a reminder of what Misplaced is about. This is a series about food systems, issues of sustainability related to food systems, but most importantly, solutions. And we invite entrepreneurs, advocates, and experts to share with us their experiences and their solutions. And today we're really, really lucky to be hosted in a very wonderful venue that is called the Mills Fabrica. The Mills Fabrica is an incubator, an investment fund, and a community that focuses on textile companies, technology, and lifestyle in the fields of apparel and textile, as well as food and agriculture. They invest in and incubate companies that will accelerate the transition into a more sustainable future through innovation. You might have heard their newly onboarded incubatee is Green Queen Hong Kong, and the Mills Fabrica will provide support to Green Queen Hong Kong by co-creating content and helping them to diversify their insights, growing their platforms, and also reach a wider audience. So we're really happy for the Mills Fabrica and for Green Queen Hong Kong, and thanks for hosting us. But it's also amazing that I'm joined here today by our guest speaker, Heidi Spurrell. Nice to have you here, Heidi. Thanks for coming. So Heidi has a very, very interesting job and a very interesting background in sustainability. Her mission is to nudge businesses for positive environmental and social impact, particularly businesses in food sustainability, corporate sustainability, and policy. So she will share with us today the experience of Food Made Good Hong Kong, which is a food sustainability consultancy business that helps restaurants to get on their sustainability journey, no matter at what stage they are starting. It also offers a safe platform to discuss issues of sustainability within the industry and has a system to audit restaurants and their success against the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Interesting facts about Food Made Good Hong Kong that we think is really worth mentioning is that they are semi-finalists for the Rockefeller Foundation Food Systems Vision Award, which is a very competitive competition where there were over 1,300 applicants, and Food Made Good Hong Kong were one of the 79 semi-finalists. So congratulations, really well done. I just want to remind everyone, if you want to see more episodes like this in the future or be sent the recordings, do sign up through the link that is in the description. And don't forget to post your questions for Heidi today, because she will be speaking for around 15 minutes, but we will then address all your questions. So do comment and post your questions in. So I guess that is it for the introduction. Thank you, Heidi, for being here. I will pass it on to you now to tell us more about Food Made Good.
Great. Thanks, Christina, for inviting me, and Savina. You guys are doing amazing work in Hong Kong as well. So, you've already done the intro, so I'll just very quickly talk about how we came about. So we are a chapter of the Sustainable Restaurant Association, which was formed in the UK about 10 years ago. And the whole idea is that we're here to provide guidance and support and foster collaboration so that we can accelerate the change we need to see. And it's very much a supportive program. We don't want to be here judging what restaurants are not doing and what they're doing. Mm-hmm. It's more about guidance along a long journey. So the program was launched in Hong Kong late 2019 with the mission to support the food service sector. And the vision is really to scale this idea of a sustainable food system. And here you can see some pictures from our launch, and we invited as many people as we could from the sector. In fact, it was double the number we anticipated. So we're really happy with the turnout from restaurants, from other sustainability consultancies, chefs, GMs, NGOs related to food, policymakers, some government representatives as well. So we really want to take this inclusive approach that anybody can start this journey and get involved and hear about how Food Made Good can work together with them. So this is our core team at the moment. We're a very small team here, 3.5, I should say. So myself, Barney and Angelica, and together we work on membership, on consultancy projects, and oversee the whole program. And we also work really closely with our London team, which we need their support. They're very much a big part of what we do on a daily basis. So before I get any further, I thought I might just show you this video because it's a 60-second clip and it really encompasses the challenges that we have in the food system. Sometimes people don't have time to think about what does it mean, food system and challenges. So this is a really nice clip that kind of summarizes it. And we made this in collaboration with World's 50 Best, which is one of our partners. I hope you that gave you a sense of what we're facing in the food system. And I thought it just kind of highlighted not just the environmental challenges, but also the human health side as well. So we often get asked, why are we focusing on food as a sustainability organization? And we think, well, actually, factually, the global food system accounts for about a quarter of the world's global greenhouse gas emissions. You might have heard that before. So it really is a sector that needs to kind of adjust. And so we focus on the eating out sector, which are the chefs, the restaurants, the GMs, because we believe they actually shape what we eat, how we eat. They have a real cultural influence on our food culture and the future of how we see food. So we focus on restaurants. And when we talk about the challenges, we know that they're far and wide, as you saw in the video there. Although food waste and plastics is widely discussed today, potentially thanks to the Attenborough effect and lots of other great influencers and TV hosts talking about this, there's plenty of issues that we don't really see that are affecting how the food system is being challenged. So nutrition, for example, chefs and GMs and restaurants, what are their levels of nutrition when it comes to designing their menus, because it's starting to impact human health. And this idea that this conflict we have of 1 in 9 going hungry in the world, whereas you have 2 billion overweight and obese. So there's this real conflict of how food is, how accessible food is, how available it is, how affordable it is. So we have all these conflicting challenges. We also have issues around fair pay. We know that these are long hours that those in the food service sector are working. So trying to support the industry and understanding the issues and thinking about what solutions there are out there and connecting them with the solutions. And so just talking about a few more issues on the environment side here. These ones are more related to water, how you can distribute food, and educating our children. And then this is more sort of upstream. Hope you can see this if you're dialing in on your phone, but these are the sort of invisible things that we don't see when we have a plate of food in front of us. What's going on before this food has reached us. And I always quote the deforestation one because, in COVID right now, and we're talking about zoonosis diseases and all this kind of animals being misplaced from their natural habitats. Well, we're cutting down our forests and growing soy and grains to feed animals. So really it doesn't make sense when we know so many people are going hungry in the world. And then this issue around livestock being so intense for our natural resources. So the challenges are really wide and complex, and there's no silver bullet on all of these issues. So what we do with the sector is try to bring them the latest science in a manageable way, in a way that doesn't overwhelm, bite-sized kind of portions, if you like. And every month we'll talk about one of the topics. And one that I'm really excited to introduce more on is really about biodiversity, because we think that chefs can, really diversify the menu, and lots of advantages to that. Because currently we know that there are around 30,000 edible plant species, but we're only actually eating about 200 of them. So there's real opportunity to be, eating and bringing more diverse ingredients to our plates. And actually WWF have done an amazing Future 50s bit of research around that, and I think that's a really great guide. So I won't talk about too much about all of these individual issues, just suffice to say that the challenges are wide, and we try to educate and inspire the industry to make changes in the right direction. And these are some of the things that we also try to highlight in our work with the members, is what's going on in the news, what's going in the industry, what's going on in the supply chain. You might have heard about some of these controversies. So, the members don't have time to be on top of all of these latest issues. So our role is really to bring them the news in many different ways, whether it's through our community platform or through the monthly events that we deliver. One of these ones related to the coconuts and monkeys picking the coconuts, for example. It was a real challenge, and it created a lot of discussion last summer, amongst our community. So these are great for highlighting some of the challenges. We also try to bring some clarity around the complexity around all of these certification schemes, and is certification a good thing, is it a bad thing? We know that it's not a silver bullet, it's not perfect, but it provides some kind of guidance, especially when our supply chains are so long, and in Hong Kong with so much of our food imported, we can try to use these standards to help guide us in the right direction, even though they're not necessarily perfect. It's one way to help us get there. So just to give you an idea of how Food Made Good supports the community and the public, we run an annual membership program which allows our members to be audited, and we baseline in the first year where they are amongst the sort of focus areas of our framework, and then each year we try to support them in improving their score. So it becomes a way that they can measure their change, and in sustainability we think it's really important to be able to measure and communicate to the public and to senior management as well. And as I said, our events allow a space to share best practice as well. And then of course we run consultancy projects which are more bespoke, and we've been doing that with some landlords in Hong Kong who are trying to make the effort to engage their F&B tenants on sustainability in a holistic way. We also work with some international brands like Pernod Ricard, who are obviously a global company, and this project started out in the UK as well. Another thing we do is run education courses. So we have a CPD course which is accredited to enable the sector to just get an overview of what food sustainability is. And then lastly, campaigning, because it's very important to get the consumers engaged on this topic, and not just be working with industry only. And so when we launched, we had WWF as one of our partners as well. So this is our framework, and the reason why I show this is to show sort of the complexity and how broad the issues are. The framework really is fully aligned with the SDGs, so we have sourcing, society, and environment. And we don't want to overwhelm the sector and the members, but it's just to introduce all of these different areas to be aware of. And food is one of the few sectors that cuts across all of 17 SDGs. So it really illustrates how complex this challenge is. And academics would go so far to say that the food system challenges are a wicked problem, meaning that you try to, fix a part of the chain, the system, and then you may have these unintended consequences later on. For example, if you're asking people to reduce their meat consumption, well, what's that doing to the farmers who are actually farming regeneratively, and they're smallholders and doing it in an ecological way? So there's lots of different examples of where that's happening. You start to displace certain livelihoods. So here's some pictures, because we were asked to share some pictures of what it's like in situ. So this is one from our awards last year in November. There's a picture of Shane there, Shane Osborne, our president, who has the restaurant Arcane in Central, and then Debbie, who was our host. She's a home cook, but does a lot of presenting on YouTube, so she was fantastic. And on the left, you can see just some pictures from our March event where we talked about natural resources, and we had a speaker from WWF talking about palm oil. We had Matt from Maximal Concepts talking about compostable cling film, and Blair talking about alternative protein with his jackfruit. So, every month we try to engage the sector so that we can inspire them with great solutions that could help to shift them in the right direction. So I just wanted to finish off with this slide. How am I doing for time? Am I good?
You're good.
So we had the Environment Secretary come to our awards last year, Mr. Wongam Singh. So that was really great to have his support. We fully appreciate that this is a complex problem. We can't just be speaking to the industry. We need to try to persuade the policymakers and engage them. So businesses, policymakers, NGOs, all need to get involved. So yeah, that's it for me. So I'm really happy for any questions.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Heidi, for such a nice presentation and a nice introduction to Food Made Good Hong Kong. We already have some questions coming through, and we'll definitely get to those. It's kind of amazing how the conversations during Misplaced align nicely. I could see a lot of the themes going pretty well with the conversation we had with Paul Newnham back in March, I believe. If you remember, there were talks about the Chef's Manifesto and how chefs are really at the forefront of making change in food sustainability, which is absolutely awesome. I have one question for you, if you don't mind starting from that. What do you think is the biggest incentive for restaurants to join your membership? And also, for those that don't, what is the biggest hurdle that makes them, incapable to join such a program?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Incentive, well, it's really inexpensive to join the program. And I don't have that quote there right now, but one of our biggest advocates, Richard Ekibus from Amber, he said that you get some of the best advice you can get in Hong Kong for very little cost. And so our membership program starts at $7,000, $7,500 a year. And so you'll get some really great advice. You'll get you've got your audit, you'll join a community of people. So we find that chefs don't have time to meet socially. And so because they know that our event is happening every month, it's got that social side to it as well. You'll learn a lot. You're probably aware of, for example, let me give you a good example. Recently, Seaspiracy, you've probably seen it. There's a lot of controversy around the balance on and the scientific research that was involved in that. So it allows a platform for our members to talk about current issues that are important to them. So some chefs will be really interested in seafood, and that's their main thing. They really want to make sure that seafood is the one thing they get right on sustainability. Others, it will be waste. For others, it'll be plastic or whatever it is. So the platform allows the members just to gather and have discussions. So it's really providing a space and facilitating those conversations. So, and also the public are starting to recognize the logo. So that's an incentive. So it's bringing in business opportunities too, and being on the right side. And what you want to avoid is being accused of greenwash, because it's very easy. And it's not because it's a deliberate effort of just misleading. It's really about, this topic is so complex. like, how do I get a grip of it? So that's what we can do. We help you make sure that you're kind of communicating it in the right way, and through our meetups and the educational workshops and the toolkits, they become more confident to speak about sustainability. And then the challenge, I do think we get some restaurants that are worried about getting involved, because it's like opening a can of worms. Like, if I start now, where do I stop? And that's something. But I always say, don't worry, you have to start somewhere. In the 10 years that we've been auditing restaurants, nobody's ever scored 100%. It's not about that. It's more about an aspiration. It's about a journey. The science is evolving and changing. And to give you an example of that, everyone got really excited about PLA and, plastic made from plants. Well, the latest science is actually it's confusing the recycling system, and Australia is starting to work towards banning it. So it's an evolving science. Everything is evolving. So you'll never be like a fully sustainable restaurant. It's more about trying to understand the challenges and doing the best you can.
Yeah. I think that's definitely a good way to put it, right? Just recognizing you're part of a transition and you really need to be up to date and do to the best of your knowledge. And it's definitely overwhelming. That's another fact that has come up quite a lot during our series, how overwhelming it is to think sustainably in all aspects. So one thing that you mentioned I think was very interesting is it might be very hard and you mentioned it, that chefs do not have a lot of time, right? This is a very intense work. And it's really hard to understand what effects one initiative could have on other aspects of the food system. And you said that the Food Made Good helps kind of like see those connections, right? So can you give an example maybe of one of those kind of like cascading effects that restaurants may not be aware of and that you're trying to help restaurants be aware of and fix?
I think jumping on the bandwagon is really difficult. Everybody's saying, oh, we need to switch to I don't know, like lots of plant-based options, and then some chefs will go for it, others will not, and not understanding like how processed some of the options are, and then getting those questions from other customers and not being able to explain what all the ingredients are. Right. So in terms of a cascading effect, I think it's better to understand completely what the issues are around plant-based eating. I think the whole vegan and vegetarian issue, when you start to have this kind of I am ethically, morally superior to you because I'm not, that starts to get people angry and upset. And so we just need the facts, right, before we start to create these kind of like, you have to be this, or we don't want extreme positions in what we do. It's about shifting the mainstream. I don't know if that really answers your question, but I think doing things slowly and methodically always helps, rather than just diving in. One thing that I remember, a conversation I had with a GM, is they switched to a plant-based cutlery because one of their locations they had to use disposables, and then the customers got really angry because they thought it was plastic, and then it went viral all over social media and upset the restaurant quite a lot. So just going in with, okay, we're going to switch out to this plant-based option, but not having done any communications around it. Right. So that was something that they could have just come to Food Made Good, and this was before they joined Food Made Good, and said, okay, this is our plan, what should we do? And perhaps we might have advised them to have information on the tables, have it on their website already, that it's a certain type of compostable, or just cutlery, or having done some communication around it beforehand. And so the backlash was that they got a lot of negative social media. Right. So Food Made Good would help restaurants, prevent these kind of unexpected impacts. That's great. That's great to hear. Why don't we go on to audience's questions? Okay, we have a few comments from Dr. Muhammad Umar Zahid. Please do send us questions if you'd like. And then a question saying, with all the different food challenges facing the world,
what would you consider the key challenge we need to solve?
Yeah, that's a good question because we need to prioritize, right? So we always talk about 3 things that we can all do. They're sort of interrelated, and this is actually some research out of the WRI, the World Resource Institute, as individuals and actually as businesses, because it doesn't require lots of policy change. So the first thing is obviously increase your plant-based consumption, reduce your meat consumption, and manage your food waste better. So that is really individuals and businesses. So I would say in a nutshell, those are the 3 things that we could do. And we're not in the position that you have to be vegetarian, but it's more about rethinking how you can increase your plant-based consumption. Because you don't win friends by telling people they can't eat meat. We're not about that. As I said, if you think of the bell curve, right, we're not talking to the people at the edges. We're trying to shift the mainstream. And so we talk about offering more alternatives in your restaurant, not taking away the things that your usuals, your regulars love, but just throwing in those other delicious sustainable options.
Absolutely. Okay, that's really interesting, and I like the image of the bell curve shifting.
Yeah.
That's actually a good representation. Given these 3 top challenges, and since you finished up your presentation with a picture with a representative of the Hong Kong government, I guess I'm gonna go there and ask, what is the number 1 policy change, I guess, or initiative that the government could do to really support restaurants better? To be more.
So
I
many.
know I'm opening a can of worms.
Let me just throw out a few that that have been mentioned to me that chefs say. So 1 week they might get a recycling bin, and it's great. 2 weeks I can put my glass bottles and wine bottles in there, and suddenly 2 weeks later that bin is not there anymore. So there's this inconsistency of recycling options, and so it really affects the restaurant trying to plan how they get rid of their waste at the end of the life of the product, whether it's food, whether it's glass bottles, whether it's paper. So I think given Hong Kong is such a rich territory, in the whole scheme of things, it could put some resources into a really good recycling system. And I've lived in lots of places in the States, in lots of places in Europe, and in Holland, in Brussels, in Belgium, Boston, and there's always some system, no matter how not imperfect it is. So I feel like you need that system. You need a recycling system. We always talk about the triangle for waste. Prevention of those items in the first place, of course, is important. But given that so much is used, when you try to recycle, you just need to make it easy for people to do the right thing. And when you have those barriers, it won't be a mainstream change, a big shift, until the government gets behind it. It's like the UK charging 5p for a plastic bag. They could have done it much earlier, but as soon as you do it, there's a shift happening straight away. And I know there are challenges outside of their control, like the businesses that are running those that sell plastic bags, for example, but you just have to get on board and start straight away and realize the magnitude of the problem. Because it is a massive issue. The landfills are filling up, and instead of getting to the root of the problem, we're building more incinerators. So,
Absolutely. No, that totally makes sense. And I think as consumers, if you haven't really worked or are not familiar with the F&B business, I guess you don't understand how difficult it is, because maybe we as consumers, we can sort of easily recycle. And Hong Kong, I gotta say, with the new recycling centers that opened up recently, has been doing some nice things, I think, also with the point collection, etc. But that's for us, for individuals, for the consumers. Restaurants have much bigger quantities of waste, especially food waste. So yeah, absolutely echo that we need an ecosystem for that, for collection and recycling.
A structure that is the same for everybody, so we're all on a level playing field, rather than businesses who want to do the right thing, they're paying out of their own pocket, which that doesn't create change on a big scale. It doesn't change this. It doesn't give us the system change that we need.
Right. Well, so then now that you mentioned about businesses, paying out of their pocket for this solution, I guess one of our questions was, is it true? And if it is true, how can we get past that, right? That sustainable restaurants tend to be more expensive.
I haven't actually done a calculation, but I think it depends what you define as a sustainable restaurant. I mean, if a restaurant serves 50% plant-based options, that you could say that's relatively sustainable, and it could be just a corner shop cafe like a cha tan teng, and that would be really inexpensive. So it just depends on how you define it, but you would be looking for, of course, restaurants that are not using those single-use items,
right.
Like the wet wipes. There's an obsession with plastic wet wipes. Any single-use item, you just don't want to be, going into restaurants that, or like polystyrene if they're using, So it just depends how you define it. But I don't necessarily think it is more expensive. You just have to be aware of what you're consuming as well, because it's not just about the food choices that you have on the menu. It's also about what, all the items inside. And sustainability isn't just about food and environment. It's also about how you treat your people. So you have to treat your people well and make sure they're being paid correctly and fairly.
Right.
And feeding healthy ingredients. So it all comes down to the price of food as well. So I can't give you a straight answer for that one, I'm afraid.
Okay, no worries. So in Food Made Good, would you say you have that range of restaurants where you have the Chachantang style of restaurants, the very local, low price restaurants, and maybe the fine dining? You have that spectrum.
We definitely set out to be that, an inclusive program. So that's why we have the kind of cafes like Classified and Manor, and then the high-end 2-star Michelin restaurants, because the program is meant to be inclusive, because we are mission driven, and the idea is that the system, everybody is moving along at the same rate. But we did get a comment recently on LinkedIn about although not many Chinese restaurants in your membership. Well, if I'm going to be frank, it takes 4, 5, 6 times the amount of persuasion to talk to a small local restaurant, or even a big local restaurant, because I don't think they believe in this program yet. I think it's also education. Whereas a lot of what we call a low-hanging fruit, also the Western chefs and restaurants, they've come on board very more easily, because they understand those challenges, or maybe in their own countries they were already doing these practices, so it wasn't new to them. So I think there's a lot more work to trying to persuade the local restaurants, and that's the reason why it's not that we don't work with them. We're talking with a big bakery chain right now, and we'd love to have them on board, but it seems that they need more persuasion, education, convincing that this is a good program to be on.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, we're hoping that they get on board soon, and education is definitely necessary in any conversation around sustainability. There will always be that awareness that needs to be built. So and we at Livin Farms are deeply into that as well. Okay, so I'm just aware of time, that we're a little bit over. So I want to thank you, Heidi, so much for this presentation and for this conversation, for answering my question. I really hope that everyone enjoyed this episode. Remember, if you want to see more episodes like Heidi's today, sign up to the whole Misplaced series through the link that we have in the description. This way you will receive reminders and recordings as well. And you can also subscribe to the YouTube channel to receive reminders when we go live. So we will see you all again next week on Tuesday, 18th of May, for another interesting episode for businesses in the F&B. And with an interest in sustainability or turning more sustainable. We'll meet with 2 Italian entrepreneurs that run a social enterprise called Feel the Beat, and they will explain how they help these businesses brand, with branding, basically sustainable and green branding. So a very interesting one. Last but not least, We do want your feedback on these episodes. There's a link to fill out a feedback form. Please do that, because if you do, you also have the chance to win a gift card from us in the value of $150. So I think that is it. I really want to thank everyone today for tuning in, and most importantly, thank you so much, Heidi,
Thanks for
for
having me.
talking to us. All right, until next